Hello and welcome to Ivory Blush Roses. My name is Lisa and today we're on week 2 of Cretan Stitch. It's block 21, which means that when we complete today's block, we'll be halfway through the sampler project. I realize that I'm running a little bit behind, so in the month of August, I'm going to try and do 2 videos a week so that we can finish this the first week in December. So that's my hope. Let's go ahead and get started. Today we're going to be doing some Cretan variations, but they're different from what we did last week, although they're still using the same basic stitch. I have a 5-seam block lined up in my frame, and I've got my threads chosen. This one is a Valdani number 12 pearl cotton. We have a DMC number 5 pearl cotton. There's 2 of those with that size. Our variegated DMC variations thread. And then an unknown color of DMC embroidery floss, and I'm using 3 strands on the floss. For these number 5 pearl cottons, I'm using a chenille needle with the big eye, and that helps make a bigger hole to let that thread through. Also makes it a lot easier to thread that needle. And we'll use those especially with the knotted stitches because I think it just makes it a little bit easier to see what we're doing. We're going to start with one over here that is Cretan with a pistil stitch on the end of it. We are going to go ahead and mark. Our seam is going to be our mark number 1, and I want to go over, let's go about 3/16 of an inch here on that one. Let's go up 1/2 inch, and then we're going to go up our 3/16 again. I'll mark that way out there. I'm actually going to mark the inner line. I'm just going to start down here and we're going to go 3/8. I am going to mark on the fabric that's easier to see on in this case. And I'm going to mark it out into my seam. And then we're going to come up, and again I'm going to put an inch mark on one of those dots and bring it straight up. And I know that's my center, so I'm going to come, I just messed that up. Does that line up in the middle? Oh, it does not. Oh my gosh. I'm going to eyeball it and we're going to redo that. So I'm going to make a darker mark there, and let's go 3/8 from those marks because I was way off, and it happens, and you just correct and redo it. And if you don't like having 2 sets of marks, just get your finger damp and you can go in and erase those marks before you remark it. Just make sure you're letting it dry. Those marks are going to be the same as down here. I think I'm going to work this one backwards. That's one of the nice things about Cretan Stitch is it's one that's pretty easily worked either direction. This stitch is going to make a knot at the outside, and right here is where roughly my seam is. I do not want a knot there if I can help it because I'm going to be stitching right in that area. We're going to start here as though we're out in our seam, and actually that would come there. Well, you know what? Let's just go ahead and do it. So I'm going to do 2 wraps here. Now the trick here is before you pull that knot tight, you have to come back up. So I find this one easier to scoop stitch. And now is when I want to pull my thread tight. And we're going to pull through. And there's my pistil stitch. So let's do that again. I'm coming up here. I'm going to do 2 wraps for my pistil stitch, and then I'm going to scoop up to that dot, and I'm pulling tight so my thread's got enough tension on it to make the knot and to catch. And now we're going to go the other way. We're going to make our 2 wraps. This dot to the left is my correct dot. Now I've got to come back and catch. So I'm going to come up on that dot, and here's where I want to pull that thread nice and snug. And I'm protecting the tip of the needle so it's not catching on any other threads while I'm holding tension on this one. And I'm going to pull down. Now I'm using this chenille needle with a bigger end so it doesn't go through quite as easily. Now see, I could have gotten that one a little tighter. I'm going to wrap 1, 2, go down. Let's just try stab stitching this one and see how that goes. Coming up. That's right in all that thickness of fabric. So pulling that, sort of pull my knot, and that did pretty good. All right, now we're going to go 1, 2, go down on that knot. Let's try stab stitching this one as well. And I'm going to come back up. Got to get that end of thread out of the way. I want to come up straight down from where we went up. I'm going to hold that tension there. And I might have made my knot a little too tight too fast. When I get a mess like that, if I pull it tight, I will never get it undone. Before it tightens up, I'm going to try and pull my thread out. I need to undo that mess and start over because I made a royal mess of that one. I've still got one loop here that I need to get out. All right, so let me rethread that and let's try that one again. So we're going to go down. Let's go ahead and scoop stitch this one rather than trying to stab stitch it. And I've got to make sure my needle is staying free of fabric and thread. And apologize if my hands are in the way on this one. Let's keep that going there. There we go. And pulling that down. So 1, 2. Now we're going to go down on the next dot here. I'm going to try scoop stitching that back straight above. And still while trying to hold that, so we got good tension. There we go. Happier with that. And I know I've moved everything out of place here. Now I really should be doing this one closer to myself. Let's turn it around and try that. See if that makes a difference. I think sometimes I get so excited about doing a stitch and I don't think it through. Now we're going to go wrap 1, 2 and down. So I'm kind of holding that tension there. I don't want to pull it too tight just yet. Got to have enough room to get my needle back up straight below it. Make sure it's on the correct side of the thread. Now I'm going to hold this. I'm not going to pull real tight because I got to get my needle through with that bigger eye. And we're going to pull, and then now I can kind of put my fingernail and hold that knot, and that works a little bit better. So let's try that again. So now we're going to go up to the next one, wrap twice. And you could wrap as many times as you want. I'm going to come down there, and I'm going to just kind of snug that up a little bit. Not too tight yet. I don't want to lock it in just yet. All right, then I'm using my fingernail to kind of hold it. And that one got a little off to the side, but it'll work. So 1, 2, and my thread's getting short. I'm going to go down. Now I'm going to scoop stitch this one coming back. Get right up at my dot, make sure I'm coming under my thread so it catches. Hold that one out to the side. Hold the knot. There, I like that one. I definitely do better when I have the knot coming toward me than the one where the knot's going further away. And that could be because I might need to be doing the wraps on the other side as I'm thinking about this. I'm going to come down. The other thing I'm thinking is on this side I'm pulling this way, and I wonder if on this side I need to pull that way. So I'm protecting my needle, making sure it's not going through fabric and thread that I don't want. Kind of pull that snug. It'll do. I'm really down to the end here. And actually, this is off in the other piece, so I think we are done with that one. I'm going to think about where that knot would be. I'm going to go down. there, but I'm looking at this and I need to be coming up here. And now I'm just going to make a pistil stitch, 2 wraps, take it down, and I don't need to come back and do a catch stitch, and that seam is done. Now I'm looking at this thinking I probably do need to come back and put one in here and see if I can move that knot off to the inside, even though it's going to be really close. I just feel like when I seam that it's going to look funny without that. So let me turn this over, knot it, and then we'll come back and fix that. Let's fix that one. I don't want to put my knot right there, so I'm actually going to run it through down here on the backing so it's in the middle. I'm going to come up out here if you look at these, the pattern goes under that, so I am going to go under, and we're going to do our 2 wraps and make a pistil stitch. I'm going to move it in ever so slightly to hopefully keep it from that seam line. And there we are. And that seam is finished. So that is a Cretan stitch with a pistil stitch for the tip. Let's work on this seam here next. We're going to do one now that's a stacked stitch. We're going to mix it up a little bit here today. We're going to make marks going every 1/2 inch across this on the bottom. And again, I'm marking out way far from where I need to be. And then I'm going to come up and we're going to make a mark at 1/4 inch. That is this yellow line. I want to run that right down my seam. Since this is almost a perpendicular seam, I'm going to go ahead and just mark at the 1/4 inch on this one. We're going to make another line at 1/4 inch, and now we're going to go back to our 1/2 inch marks. I think we need to actually be doing every 1/4 inch across here, and I think this one also needs to be at every 1/4 inch. So let me just fill those in. And so this is the one that we need to be just on the 1/4 mark. Let me think here where I'm at here. There we are with that one. I have this 3 strands of DMC. I don't know which color it is. We're going to start off much the same as what we've been doing. I'm going to start out here. I'm just looking at those lines and they are not lining up. I realized my lines weren't quite straight, and I just drew lines in the proper position across. And so you'll notice there's one set of lines that comes down on this side that's offset to the ones that come down on the far side. I think we're going to start out here in the seam allowance. We're going to actually be doing 2 rows here. The way this one is going to work, it's how they interlock together. I'm going to use the Jennifer Clouston method here. And we're going to come up there. So I need to be going over my thread. And that way I can work all from the same direction. And now I'm going to come out. I think I need another row. I do. I need another row. Sorry, I had to get a pencil and paper out and do this, and I really need another row. So let me go ahead and mark that row in here, because if I don't, then I will be fighting with this, and I don't want that. So I need one more row here. And so this one needs to come out here. That's the one I need there. And these come to here. Sorry about the confusion there. This is not starting off to be the best video I have filmed. My apologies. I'm going to go and make this one down here. I need to be going over my thread because that's how I'm going to catch it. Pull it up, and like I said, we're going to use that Jennifer Clouston method here. And we're going to go down on the second line, come up at the very top. Now pull it down. And now we're going to go to this one here. Go over my thread so we're catching it in. Now we're going to loop that thread over the top. We're going to come up here. We're on this line. We're going to come up just above. It always looks like it's wrong when you start off, and then you just have to remember to pull it back. And now we're going to go down to this line and come up on the center line. Now looping the thread over the top, we're going to come down on the second line, go up to the top. Now pull it down, and you've got that lovely catch. Down to the third, actually the fourth line, coming back to the third, over that thread, now up to, I'm going to be in line with my dots here, or where they're supposed to be anyway. Now pull it back, and there's our catch. So always stitching over your thread on this one. Now we're working from the fourth line. Now up here, now I am going to go ahead and finish this one off. I've put my thread under the needle so it's catching it, and then coming down. And now I don't have the next one, but it's going to be in there somewhere, so I'm just going to try and tuck that under that seam there. And there we have that one. So now we're going to stitch another row, but this time we're going to be stitching it up here. And my lines have already faded, and I just am feeling like we need to have that. So I want to bring that out here. We can see it easily enough. This is going to be easier if I do 2 rows going the same direction for you. Let me knot this off, and then we'll come back and work the second row. Now we're going to come down. I'm going to come in straight between my 2 dots in the seam allowance. And now I'm going to keep doing that same method. I'm going to stitch down on that next dot up, but I'm going to come up. And actually I'm going to stab stitch this right here. I've got my loop of thread I want to be stitching under it. So I want to leave just a tiny gap there. It doesn't need to be very big. And then pull that down. And now we're going to come out here and make this one. So we're making this perfectly in line with what we've done before. I'm stitching over my thread. That's what makes my catch. We're going to go here and come up, and I want my thread to go under the needle. This is again Jennifer Clouston's method of stitching Cretan Stitch, which I really love. Down here. We're always lining up with what we've done just above it on this one. Go down at that dot on row 3. Make sure my thread is under the needle, so we're coming over the needle. Bring it down. Now we're going to come down to the bottom line. Come up just below that spoke, but I need to be over my thread, so I wrap that around. There's my catch. Now we're coming up on this line, coming up just below the one above, pull it down, tighten that catch down to this one. Finn is telling me it's dinner time. There's my catch. We're going to go up here. I'm stitching over my thread, pull it down to the bottom line, below the downward spoke. Oh, except I forgot to go over my thread, so I'm going to go back through there. And now, this is right on the seam, but I'm going to go ahead and carry it through. Take my thread under the needle, pull that and bring it down, because we needed this here. And again, I'm going to just try and go off under my seam right there. Now you can see you could keep stacking that and you get a really interesting chevron pattern. How about that? Even with a Cretan stitch. it can form a really interesting stitch. It looks interesting in variegated threads. It's just a wonderful filling stitch, but it's also a very geometric and strong seam on its own. Let me go ahead and knot that off, and then we'll move on to the next one. We're going to do a looped Cretan stitch along this one. We are going to mark a couple of lines. This is one I probably would not normally be marking out, but I'm doing it because I do think when I'm teaching you how to do these, it makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to work in the patch rather than across the seam, just because we've got some wider stuff going on and I want to have room to do it, and this center patch is not very big. We're just going to make these lines 3/16 of an inch apart. And that should do. We're going to go 3/8 of an inch apart. So I'm going to come down and adjust my marks here. I'm going to just keep doing the same thing. So 1, 2, 3, there's a mark, and then coming down halfway between the two is going to be right about there. 1, 2, 3, come down halfway, and that's there. 3, come back halfway, that's there. I'm eyeballing it. I'm just feeling like I'm not making very accurate marks today, and I think that actually is going to help me. So sometimes you just need to eyeball it. And that's really all the marking we need if you're going to mark this one. I'm going to use our variegated DMC variations. We can really work either direction. I tend to work easier right to left, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to start with this one here. So I'm starting out in my seam allowance. For this one, we are going to come up and we are going to make a lazy daisy. What we're going to do is we're going to come up, we're going to go around, now we need to take this and make our little tab. Now you can make a long one, you could make a short one. I'm just going to make short ones today. And I'm going to come back down right to the base of that, and we're going to catch that thread. And now we're going to come over here and we're going to go straight out. I really want that to go under my needle. I think that helps me get a better stitch. I'm going to make my little catch stitch at the end. I'm going to stab stitch this direction, and I'm going to come back up right at the bottom of that one, and that will catch this and hold it. So we're going to come there, we're going to go straight up. I want to bring that under the bottom of the needle and around under the top of the needle, so I'm looping all the way around it, and that will help hold this all in place while we're stitching. Make my catch stitch, come back down to the base of that, and I want to go over that diagonal thread so I catch it in place. Since I know I need to do that, I can just put my thread over to my right side or the direction in which I'm stitching. I'm going to come down, perpendicular, coming up on that other line, bring my thread around so I have that loop I'm stitching, make my catch stitch. In this direction it's a little harder to scoop stitch, so I'm just trying not to pull too tight. Come back up at the base of that, and then I can go and make the other stitch. And now I'm going to again keep my thread over the direction I'm stitching. I'm going to go down, I'm going to come up on the top line, bring my thread around underneath so it's going under bottom and top. Make my catch stitch, And I'm coming up right at the base, and I can see that I pulled that one a little tight, so I'm going to come back and thread underneath it because I wasn't quite in the right spot. Now I'm going to keep my thread over to the right, so it's going to go under the bottom of the needle, the bottom being the end that's threaded through. Wrap it around, bring it under the top or the pointed end. Make my catch stitch. And now come up at the base, preferably to the left of the diagonal stitch. And so we're catching that, and that's how this turns into a Cretan stitch. I need to bring my thread up underneath on the bottom end, wrap it around the top. So I'm stitching through that loop. That's the looped part of our Cretan stitch. I'm going to just go ahead and stab stitch this again, coming up at the base. I think I'm a little more accurate on this one coming that way. And now, again, thread off to the right. That gets me in the right spot. And then wrap it around. So I'm stitching through a loop. Pull that, make my catch. Now we're coming up right at the base of that, but on the inside of that diagonal, thread is to the right or the direction I'm stitching. Bring it up and underneath the tip. Pull that, make your catch stitch. And then I'm going to come up at the base there. Thread to the right. Or direction you're stitching. And if you want to stab stitch this, you certainly can. Wrap it around, pull that. Might have pulled that one a little snug. It's alright, we've still got room. Come up on the inside. Now we're going to go thread to the direction I'm stitching, down on my dot. Up at the seam, wrap my thread around, pull my thread through, make the catch. Now we're going to come up right at the base, just pull that thread aside. We're still on the inside or the side away from the direction that we're stitching. Now my thread's off the direction I'm stitching. I'm going to come down, make my stitch. I'm trying not to catch in the other stitches when I wrap that thread. Make my catch. Now we're going to come up at the base of that. And now we're running into our other stitch, and I'm actually just going to stitch it off there and finish it because it's competing with this and I don't really want to stitch over that. So that is our looped Cretan stitch, and that's a fun one. It's something just a little bit different, and you get your lazy daisies and Cretan stitch all in one. Let me make a knot. The next stitch we're going to do along this seam is called Oriental Cretan. On this one, we're going to make marks every 1/4 of an inch. And this one I do want to be pretty precise with because it is going to make a difference in our pattern. And then we're going to come straight down, and I need to make those darker. Just realize that's just not quite dark enough. I need to be able to see them to mark the next row. For the next row, I'm going to come down straight to that. I do not have this one marked right. We're going to ignore this second line of stitches. They need to line up. We're going to be straight below here. I was overthinking it. I've done this before. You'd think I would have it all figured out. This seems to be my messy block this go around. Everything is very square on the markings for this one. I'm making my first stitch out here in the seam allowance. I'm going to go up to this top dot, but then I'm going to come back to this one over here. And now I'm going to go straight down from this one, and we're going to come back to that dot, and there's my catch. Now we're going to go here, but we're going to come back to that last one. We're not making that continuous line. We're making a series of, oh my gosh, and I've lost that line too here. So I'm going to come down here. We're making a series of detached Cretan stitches. So I'm coming down, I'm making the stem, so I came down to the bottom, come up to the top, I'm stitching over my thread, I'm going to come up to the next dot on the top, and I'm going to come back and meet the other one that we did. Now we're going to come down, come straight down from that, come up on that dot. Boy, I just pulled that out. I'm having all sorts of trouble here today, folks. None of it's huge, it's just annoying. Which probably means it's time to take a break, but we're almost done. So there's my catch. Now we're stitching to the next dot. Go up. So we're making a Y with this, and then you're going to come back to meet the last one. Now we're going to come down straight from here on our line, which is faded dramatically. I'm going to stab stitch a couple of these so you can see. Come up at that dot. We've caught it. Now we're going to stitch out to this Y. And again, I'm trying to stitch just over the edge of my fabric there. And see, you've got this nice Y shape in here. Now come back and meet the one that you just did. The last Y. Come down straight down to your line. I can see it very faintly. I'm guessing it doesn't show up on camera. Come up, catch, go down at the next unsewn dot. Now come back to the last dot. Ignore all these extras in between, that's where I goofed. And we're going to come down perpendicular to our line, straight below that dot. Come up at the dot. And now come up to the next unstitched dot, making my Y. Now come back to the last dot, go over to the next dot in the middle, come straight down from that, come up in the middle of that dot to make that catch, and then go up to the next unstitched dot. Come back, meet the top of that last Y. There's the next dot, come straight down to the line, come up on that dot, and go to the next unstitched dot and stitch right down through it. Then come back, meet that last Y, go to the next dot, straight down, come back up on that dot, and up to the next unstitched dot, and make a Y. Now come back and meet the last Y, go to the next dot, and then go perpendicular straight down, come up on that dot, go to the next one, that's the unstitched one, make your Y, Now we need to finish this off. I'm coming back to meet the last Y. And I don't have my dots out there, but I can kind of guess where it's at by making sure my threads are parallel. And I'm just going to sort of angle that underneath the seam of the other one. And that seam is finished. That one is called Oriental Cretan Stitch. I really like that one. I like them all, as you can tell. Let me knot that and we'll move on to our last stitch. We're going to finish up on this seam with another knotted stitch, and this one is called Knotted Cretan. Let's make these a good distance apart. We've been making stuff kind of close together. Let's mark this one out at 3/4 of an inch. I think we're actually going to make these little feet off to the side fairly small. I'm aiming for about 1/8 of an inch away. And then in the center, I think we're going to go 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just lining up on my 1/4 inch line that I just drew, and then let's go another 1/8 of an inch out this way. And I drew those twice since the last one faded. I'm going to line up with my inch mark on one of those marks, which is here. And now I need to go out 3/8 on either side of that. And I'm going to just take a look at it, eyeball it, since I've been having trouble making them in the right spot, and it looks pretty good. So I'm going to just mark that at 3/4, and that's going to fall right in there. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And that should give us everything that we need because we're coming in here. We're coming perpendicular on those two little lines in between. That should be pretty easy to keep track of, I'm hoping. We're going to be using our last thread on this one. This is the size 5 pearl cotton. I just realized that I've done this again. I keep doing this where I would end up with a knot right here. And so I'm not putting the knot in that would normally be here. I'm just trying to follow my pattern through enough that if that corner shows a little bit, it will make more sense. On this one, I am going to come down and make our stitch just like we normally would. So I've made my stitch. I'm going to bring my thread around to make a loop. I'm going to thread underneath it and come up through that loop. With knotted stitches, I find it helpful to bring my fingers in to tighten that knot a little bit. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to come down here, make our stitch, but this time we're working the other direction. We're still going to go the same way. I'm going to come here. So think about coming underneath in the center portion of that. Come out over that loop, and you're going to be making that knot. So you can sort of guide how tight you want it. And there's our next knot. Now we're going to come up, make our next leg, just like we always do with Cretan. Make our loop. We're going to go underneath our diagonal and the loop and come up in the middle of that loop. And you can again sort of guide it how tight you want that to be. Now come down your bottom, come back up, make your little leg. You've got your catch, loop off to the side, come up in the center under both threads, come up in the middle. You can sort of pull it tight. You can use your fingers to sort of guide it. Now we're going to go down on the top. And I've got a little thicker, I've got thread and I've got a knot right in there. I'm pulling the knot aside with my finger on the back. I'm going to stab stitch this one because I don't want to risk going through that knot with this big fat thread. I'm going to come back up, but I'm going to make sure I'm catching that thread. Okay, I'm going to loop around, go down toward the center under both threads, come up in the middle of that loop, and I can kind of use my finger to guide it. There's my knot. And I really like the effect of this one. I think when you get these knotted stitches, they add so much texture to it. So here's our next one. That's a little shallow there. There we go. Okay, out. Make that loop out to the side. Go up through the center under both threads. Pull that knot up to the top. Come back. Boy, that one's not straight. I'm just going to stab stitch going that way. I haven't done this knotted stitch enough to know if I can use Jennifer's method on this one, so I'm not even going to try. So we're going to just go back under the diagonal, under the loop thread, come up in the middle of the loop, make that knot. Now we're going to come up here. Now this one is running into this other one, so we're going to make a really short leg here. I'm going to stab stitch it because it's too hard to control that where we are. There's that one. Let's go make our loop, go under the diagonal, under the... What am I doing wrong here, folks? Okay, there we go. There's our loop. Pull that to make my knot. And now we're going to come up here to this one. It is going to cross over just ever so slightly, I think, when we get this in fully. There we go. Make my loop. I feel like all of a sudden I'm having a hard time figuring out what I'm doing. So coming under, there we go. The loop goes towards the side that you're on. Make my loop, and we're right on the seam. I'm just literally going to go down right pretty much where we came up with my knot sitting on the seam. And that is the knotted Cretan stitch. And again, I love the knotted stitches for how much texture they bring to the seam work. Everything else tends to sit very flat on, but the minute you start adding those knots, it just lifts things up off the fabric. Let me make my knot, and then we'll take a look at the whole block. Here is our finished block, and with the finish of this, we're officially at the halfway point in our sampler project. We have several different stitches today. Cretan with Pistil Stitch. We've got our stacked, it's really more of a nested stitch here. It's stacked one on top of the other, but because it's in exactly the same pattern, it's really a nested one. We've got our looped Cretan. We have our Oriental Cretan, and then we have our knotted Cretan. Like I said, I really like these knotted stitches because I think they add so much texture and they just sort of lift off of the block. So really happy with this knotted one. I'm pretty happy with these stitches. Next week we're going to work on stacking and layering them, and there's some really interesting patterns in that one, so I hope you're looking forward to that one. Well, this was not the easiest week for me. I felt like I was a little bit all thumbs today, and I apologize for that, but I hope that you were still able to learn some interesting new stitches and that they're ones that you'll be able to add to your repertoire of crazy quilt stitches. As we talked about at the beginning of the video, this is block 21, which puts us at the halfway point of our sampler project. And I'm so excited about that. It's a big milestone. Since I missed a few weeks, I'd like to do a couple of videos a week here through the month of August to get us ahead a little bit and hopefully keep us on track for finishing the entire piece in the first week in December. That's my goal. So until next week, I wish you a beautiful day, happy stitching, and I will see you in the next video.